I enjoyed the presentation regarding the kind of moral corruptness of this law. What I'm just wondering if you have any thoughts on the kind of actual legal aspects of it. In Scotland, obviously, you have common law and statutory law. Common law, murder, rape, so on. Statutory law, it's illegal to steal anything. This law, as far as I can see, doesn't seem to fit anywhere because nothing illegal is actually defined in it. Now, I'm wondering what your campaign is planning to do to kind of highlight this kind of thing, that it's a fundamental human right of anybody to know what if their action is illegal, breaking a law, whatever. Now, really, we're living in a situation just now where a tap on the shoulder can land you with a prison record. You really got no right of defence against this. I watched the hybrids recently where a guy was arrested on the basis of a steward saying he was drunk. Now, when I'm sitting watching Rangers every week and I say something about the referee, am I potentially in a situation where somebody thinks that referee would have taken offence of what I've said, I then end up, with a criminal record because of it? I'm just wondering, from a legal point of view, rather than a moral point of view, what your campaign seeks to do to kind of point out the stupidity of this.
Yeah, well actually, I'd be very keen to have a legal expert on my side on this. I've been in touch with a few lawyers who kind of nod, a few you'll know the names of, but they kind of nod, but never get back to me with any great level of support, because it's not my forte. I'm not a legal expert. So my campaigning fundamentally is to try and encourage fans to recognise what I think is the strongest position. But as you say, I think it is genuinely a problem that you, especially at a football match, this is what worries me, especially at a football match. When I go to football matches, I mean, I made this point at the Parliament, when I go to a football match, I'm like a bit of a loony. Even when I go with my children, and I try to limit my looniness, but that's part of what I was saying to Brian here, just being here looking at a football pitch, because I go to football so rarely because I live up here, I get excited and I'm getting all wound up just looking at a football pitch. So you can imagine what I like when I go to see Sunderland, especially because we're rubbish usually, and get defeated. And that seems to be a fundamental problem for me, that in an environment where you are basically passionate and a bit mental, that the words you say are taken literally as a basis for potential arrest. And I do genuinely worry about this. They argue that no, that's not how it's going to work out. The police wouldn't do that and all the rest of it. The worry I have is that the level of politicisation that this bill and the whole issue has taken, it's really going to be down to the police to make that decision. And if they, on a day, so for example, the day I was here, I got invited in by the Union Bears and the Blue Order to see how the police treated them when they were doing their protest. And you could see straight away that the level of intimidation by the police had already upped because they had protested the week before, right? Which again I find fascinating. You're not allowed to protest. I thought that was what democracy was about. So I can't give you real legal expert advice on this, but for me I think the key thing is to try and undermine the moral righteousness of the people arguing about this campaign, and actually illustrate that they're the ones who are intolerant. They're the ones that are being authoritarian, and actually are encouraging fans now to be sectarian in a much more vicious way by grassing on one another and getting criminal records. So that's the line I'm going to pursue as hard as I can, basically.
Any more questions? My name's Philip Lardner. The point you make about the law and about politics is very important. I have some experience of the law, although I'm not a practicing solicitor, and I've quite a bit of experience in politics as a former Conservative and Unionist candidate who was dumped for political correctness by David Cameron. But I wrote to the Chief Constable in March and asked him, in light of what was in the media, if you could please inform me which songs I was not and was allowed to sing so that I could avoid committing an offence. Because as most people will know, that the fundamental principle in law is that you should know whether or not you're committing an offence or committing a crime. Now that's the theory, but the practice is that in this country the rule of law in many aspects, not just football related, has now disappeared and politics runs the show. Judges ignore statute law that the Parliament has passed, which is supposed to be sacrosanct and above judges. They through arrogance, corruption, whatever, just politics decide to make the law. Now I wrote to Chief Constable, couldn't I get the answer back saying that it would be too difficult to determine what is and what is not a crime. Now again I wrote to the Chief Constable about a month ago now, 6 weeks ago, after the Kilmarnock game on I think it was a Tuesday night, and the disgraceful scenes where the fans were intimidated consistently. And the response I got was a mixture of, I got a phone call actually from a chief inspector who basically tried to browbeat me about the thing and tell me how terrible it was and I had to stop this, that and the next thing. But in some small way I might have made a difference, because at the game, at the last game we had...
Philip, much as I love you, it's a question, it's not your life story we want, mate.
Fair enough, but just the point is that they have to put pressure on the politicians and write to the police and, you know, let them know that we're not going to be taking it, because to rely on the rule of law, we're kidding ourselves if we think there is any rule of law that's going to protect Rangers. Mr White, as mentioned earlier, is indeed a very capable man, but whether he's right or not in law with HMRC, I'm afraid that the rule of law is no longer enough to protect us.
I enjoyed your life story, by the way. That was good. See, there's a problem, you see, with that, with what you're saying, I think, because, and again, this is, you know, people have to make a decision about this. I'm not going to ask the police which songs should or shouldn't. I can understand this from a practical point of view, as you standing on the terraces. It's very easy for me to say this, and I'm not going to be standing on the terraces. I don't think any song should be something that you're arrested for. Simple as that. None. And I think that's a position that, see, I think, a way to sell my t-shirts. I've made a t-shirt, 3 t-shirts. One's a Rangers one, one's a Celtic one, one's a black neutral one. It says either Rangers fans for free speech or football, or Celtic fans. One's green, one's blue. Yes, that's a surprise. But the thing in the middle says, I may hate what you say, but I'll defend to the death your right to say it. Right? It's an old Enlightenment slogan about free speech. Now, I genuinely think if you had 50,000 Rangers fans wearing those t-shirts, I would be then rich, but you know, that's a side issue. If you had 50,000 Rangers fans wearing the Rangers one, and 50,000 Celtic fans, basically saying, they can sing what you like, now you lot out of here and stop arresting us. This bill would be smashed out the water. Not only this bill, but the existing bills would be totally undermined, and so would the way fans are policed at the minute. That's my objective. You know, whether I'll ever get there, who knows? But no songs, in my opinion, should mean that you're arrested. It's a nonsense.
Thanks for Derek Pickering here again. It's more an observation, this one at the time. At the moment, we're talking about sending people up to 5 years in jail for singing a song that may be offensive. This is coming to the same government that's refusing to automatically lock up people carrying a knife. I think I'll agree, a knife does a hell of a lot more damage than a song does. You know, that's the first one. Second one, not being the sort of brightest bulb in the fact, I actually went to a dictionary to look up what the word bigotry means. The word bigotry means intolerance of other people. So I would ask, who's the true bigots here? The people that are singing the songs, or the people who want to ban them?
Yeah, I mean, it's the tolerance point's absolutely right. It's an important thing at the minute. There's a whole area of people actually writing and trying to promote this. Tolerance historically emerged. To tolerate something, you have to dislike it. Right? You don't tolerate things you like. To tolerate, it means you dislike. And the emergence of tolerance with the Enlightenment, through John Locke and then John Stuart Mill in the 19th century, it was a defense of the right of people to be offensive. That's what it is. Right? I will tolerate what you say because I recognize the need for freedom. I might want to challenge what you say. Right? So the little Celtic guy, there's a little Celtic lad arrested for doing a monkey chant at youth. He got 2 months for that. Right? I'm trying to find him because I want to actually interview him and see what he's actually like. See if he's a crazy racist guy who hates all blacks, or whether he's just a wee dick. who did a monkey chant. And I think we all know he's probably going to be, that's what he's going to be, right? That's what he's going to be. He's going to be a young lad who goes ooh ooh to Diouf. Right, that's it, ends up inside for 2 months. It's a joke, right, in my opinion. However, if I was standing next to him, I might tell him off, or I might do more than tell him off and say, don't be a wee racist, whatever. Right? And I would still, I think fans should do that. They should challenge each other. They establish their own culture. They establish their own things that they think is acceptable and isn't acceptable, and then you sing them. Right? And part of being a football fan is you try and offend the opposition. That's another thing. So you go on. But another thing that's crazy about all this is, even if the whole past of Rangers and Celtic didn't exist, right, and it just disappeared, and then you recreated a club that had a more Catholic base and a more Protestant base, but there was absolutely no rivalry at a religious or political level, at a football pitch, you would still sing anti-Catholic songs, right? Because that's what you do. You find the weakest point, the thing that you think is most offensive, and then you create really unpleasant, funny, vicious, infantile songs about your opponent. That's what you do. Which is, again, why this whole focus on football fans and criminalising songs is utterly, utterly insane.
Richard Cleary, I would just like to ask you, with the campaign here to try and get rid of this bill, with the SNP making this almost a flagship bill going through the Parliament, and look how clever we are, and them having a majority in Holyrood, and so far a total reluctance to listen to the will of the people, how do you believe this can progress to get the result that we would all like to get?
Well, I think, and I think this is true, that because there has been opposition voices from the fans and other people, the SNP has had to answer. If there hadn't been these voices of opposition, it would have been pushed through in 2 weeks. That would have happened. Because there was too much defensiveness. Everyone doffed the caps to start with. Oh yes, it's bigotry, it's sectarianism, and no one was prepared to really come out. And once you started to question this and say, actually, this is nonsense, it's authoritarian, it's reactionary, the SNP have been put on the defensive. So Labour have now come out against it, the Conservatives have come out against it. Ultimately, I think if you had a significant growth in fans opposing this, and if fans stood up and said they shouldn't be arrested, and both sets of fans, in fact all fans, said they shouldn't be arrested, i.e. pointing at the people they hate, said they shouldn't be criminalised, I think that would potentially have a major impact. I mean, I'm hoping to try and do some sort of protest outside the Parliament when it's actually going through. And if you had 5,000 or 10,000 people standing outside Parliament, I think they might crap themselves. Whether we can get that, who knows? But that's my objective.
Hi Stuart, Paul Mitchell here. I just wanted to ask, I know you mentioned it earlier that you had a day in the Union Bears and Blue Order section. Perhaps you could share with the audience your thoughts on the police's intimidation that day, and hopefully the fans' humorous response to that intimidation.
Yeah, it's funny, when I used to go to Sunderland match, I always went by myself. Sad case, and all my mates were Newcastle fans, so I'd have to travel to Sunderland by myself. And I would always try, in the days when you could actually stand, I would kind of like nudge along so that I was standing next to the rowdies, so you'd find the sort of noisiest, rowdiest section, and stand there. And it's been a while since I've been in a kind of that section, but you had that with the sort of Union Bears. And you forget how much the police despise these rowdy, yobbish football fans as they see it, and you can almost understand it, right? You've got these young working class lads in a group who are now thinking, we can actually have a bit of a go back here because there's quite a few, and you can see the hairs on the back of these police's necks standing up. Of course, if they weren't there, if they weren't standing there, this wouldn't be happening. But at certain times they decide they're going to stand there, they're going to have a presence, and they're going to intimidate. And that's certainly what they tried to do. And there was, I think, between 5 and 10 people ejected. A couple of people got their season tickets ripped out their hands and taken off them. So the police certainly were upping their game. Worryingly, it also seems that Rangers stewards were also upping their game because they didn't want more protests.